Roughly 15 years ago, Porsche finally entered the coveted four-door luxury sedan space with the introduction of the Panamera in the US all the way back in 2010. Now, of course, at the time, the Panamera was designed to go head-to-head against vehicles like the Mercedes-Benz S-Class and BMW 7 Series. However, since then, we've seen this segment of vehicle change a lot as everyone tends to go toward SUVs. But for 2024, it hasn't stopped Porsche from introducing an all-new version of the Panamera. As you can see, this week we are driving this 2025 Gentian Blue Panamera 4, which means it has a new engine under the hood, twin turbocharged V6. It has updated styling in the front and the rear, and on the inside it gets an all-new interior that essentially borrows technology from the electric Taycan and of course their flagship SUV, the Cayenne. So for those of you who are looking for an executive flagship luxury sedan, but you want something with more of a sportier edge, how does the brand new 2024 Porsche Panamera stack up? Stay tuned to find out. So like I said, for 2024, Porsche is introducing an all-new generation of Panamera here in the US. But before we start talking about the exterior styling changes, let's go ahead and pop the hood and show you guys what's powering this vehicle. Now, unlike a 911 or other Porsche sports cars, the engine for this vehicle is actually located in the front of the vehicle. And like so many other Porsches, the company offers a plethora of different engine choices to choose from. This, however, gets a new engine for 2024. Now underneath the hood, I say it's a new engine, but we've seen this engine in other Porsche and Audi products. Previously, the base version of the Panamera had a 3-liter single turbo direct injection V6. It has been replaced by essentially a detuned version of the Panamera S's engine, a 2.9-liter twin turbocharged gasoline direct injection V6. In this application, it now makes 348 horsepower and 368 pound-feet of torque. That's an increase of about 23 horsepower and around 31 foot-pounds of torque versus the previous base version of the Panamera. It all goes out through an 8-speed PDK, a dual clutch transmission. That's your only transmission option. And then you can take your pick between either rear-wheel drive or for an extra $7,000 like my test car, you can go for the Panamera 4, which adds the company's intelligent all-wheel drive system. Fuel economy is rated at 18 in the city, 25 on the highway. This is, of course, rated to run on premium gas. It has a massive, for this vehicle size, 23.7-gallon fuel tank, which means you can go around 450 to 550 miles of range, depending on whether you're driving in primarily city or highway. That's an excellent amount of range, considering this is not a hybrid or a mild hybrid or an electric vehicle. The company claims with the Sport Chrono package, you should be able to hit 60 in this vehicle in about 4.5 seconds. It has a top speed of around 168 miles an hour, and as this car sits, it weighs in at just over 4,300 pounds. Remember, if you guys want more power, there are more powerful variants like the e-hybrid version of this, which adds an electric motor, pumping up the power to 463. There's also a 4S e-hybrid that pushes the power to 536, a GTS that has a 4-liter twin-turbo V8 that delivers just under 500 horsepower, and then there's the Turbo and Turbo S e-hybrid going all the way up to 771 horsepower. That is, of course, a different review. But let's go ahead and close up this very long hood. I want you to also see the engine lives pretty far back in the chassis because, again, it's a longitudinally mounted rear drive architecture. But when I close the hood here and we take a look at the exterior styling, unless you have the old Panamera parked next to this vehicle, it kind of looks very similar. If you guys know Porsche, they are very conservative when it comes to their exterior designs and making any changes. This new version, you can see, this is a wide vehicle at 78.6 inches wide. It's actually around the same width, the same length, and the same height as the previous generation. This is built off of the same MSB architecture, although it's been slightly updated. You can see the front fascia has these new kind of more squared off rectangular 4-point LED styling for the LED daytime running lights. You can see there are 4 individual LEDs, including the daytime running light and of course the turn signal, which is down here. The front fascia in general got a big update. You can see you've got massive openings for the air intakes. You have your sensor there for the Porsche Innovation Drive and adaptive cruise control. You have a front camera, front parking sensors, and I also like the way the turn signal is now kind of vertically oriented in this lower front fascia. My particular test car for $1,500 is also painted in this gorgeous shade of dark blue called Gentian Blue. It certainly fits nicely with the lines of the Panamera. If you guys remember, when the first generation came out, it was not really loved in terms of its exterior design. Porsche really updated it in 2017 in the second gen, and for the third gen, I certainly think it still is a handsome looking vehicle, but I kind of think the front fascia was better looking on the prior generation. Let me know in the comment section below what you guys think. Now, moving around the side profile, Porsche now, of course, offers two four-door sedan type vehicles. This is technically a liftback, but it is their biggest sedan. So at 116.1 inch long for the wheelbase with a 198.9 inch overall length, this is around 3 inches longer than the Porsche Taycan. However, it is still smaller than a BMW 7 Series or Mercedes-Benz S-Class. One of the big upgrades, of course, happens to do with the suspension. All Panameras come standard with 4-corner twin-chamber air suspension with adaptive dampers. This essentially just has the base version. If you guys go for the e-hybrids, you can get a variation of Porsche's Active Ride, where it'll raise and lower the vehicle because of additional hydraulics that you get with the electric system. You can see my test car for $3,800 has these Panamera exclusive designed multiple spoke wheels. They're a 21-inch wheel clamped down by 14.2-inch rotors with a looks like a 6-piston brake caliper. The front tires are fat at 275 by 35 ZR21. It's a Michelin Pilot Sport S5. I believe it's a summer tire. The rear tires are even fatter at 325 width. So again, it's a really low profile luxury sedan that has a wonderful stance to it. With the air suspension, you do get the ability to raise and lower it depending on the drive mode. Love the fact that you have kind of like a full paint finish along the vehicle. You have some functional air intakes here. This allows air to pass through, all for aerodynamics. The mirrors are power folding. They also have turn signals, indicators, and cameras surrounding it. And then my test car also has the glass roof option. This also opens up to vent air. Great feature to have. I also love how this right here is kind of flushly designed. It looks nicely, of course, with the chrome trim, with the gentian blue. It just has a cleaner look to it. And then, of course, looking at it from this angle, you can really see the fact that this kind of has like a 4-door 911 style to it, especially when you see the slope of the rear hatch design. That does, of course, eat into your cargo capacity, but this new version has a much more attractive design to me versus, of course, the first generation. The second gen has a similar look, but if you look at the rear, you can see the taillights essentially have an even skinnier full LED light bar that goes across. It spells out Porsche at the back with the Panamera 4 badge, of course, to let you know you have all-wheel drive. You have an LED turn signal, brake light, reverse light, of course. And then my particular test car just has the standard rectangular exhaust system. You can also spec in the sport exhaust system, which my test car sadly doesn't have. I highly recommend that, especially if you guys want to hear more of that twin turbo V6 snarl. Now, there is a deployable spoiler over here. It pops out at around 70 miles an hour for aerodynamics. You can also push a button that'll make the spoiler come out on its own. And then even though this vehicle, looks like it's a 4-door sedan, it's technically a liftback. So you can see when you open up the trunk area, you get a maximum of 17.4 cubic feet of space. 17.4 is actually excellent. You can see there's additional storage to the side of this. If you look underneath here, there's also a pretty deep storage area. There's a fix-a-flat kit, so there's no spare tire in this vehicle. And then if you fold down those seats back there, Porsche says it expands the cargo to around 46.9 cubic feet. That's going to make it among the best in the segment, and that's because this is a liftback. But you should keep in mind, because of the sloping design, you can't really, pile up your groceries or boxes in here up to the roof because it'll eat into your space. But overall, this is still a lot more practical versus the traditional 4-door sedans you're going to find in the segment. So on the outside, Porsche made very little changes to the exterior design for the all-new generation Panamera, but what about the interior? This is where you're going to notice quite a few differences, especially if you have the old generation or the previous generation. Before we get inside, you can see here's the key fob for the vehicle. It's the traditional Porsche Intelligent Access key. Love how it looks like the silhouette of a car, of course. It's a really nice key. It has a nice heft to it where it feels really high quality. Has the usual buttons here for unlock, lock, power open for the trunk, and then a panic feature. There's no remote start from the fob itself, but I believe if you have access to the Porsche Connect smartphone app, you should be able to access the vehicle remotely through your smartphone. As I approach the car, you can see very traditional in the sense of the door handles that don't retract or anything like that. You can see if I touch that area here, that locks the door. It has that Audi Porsche lock chime, which I really like the sound of. The mirrors also electrically fold. You can turn that on and off. To unlock the door, just touch the back of the door handle and that will unlock the door for you. Now, my particular test car has a wonderful color combination with the dark gentian blue exterior for $1,500. And then this option here is $4,300 for the upgraded black and gray full leather interior. These are the 14-way comfort-oriented seats with heat and ventilation. The heated and cooled function is extra. It's either a la carte or part of the premium package. And you can also spec in a massage if you guys want that. But again, that's going to cost you extra because it's a Porsche. You have to pay extra for everything. Now, in terms of the door panels, you can see with the upgraded leather interior, you get leather stitching across the upper portion here. You have piano black plastic here. You have some aluminum trim, although it's like a dark matte finish black aluminum with more aluminum down here, real leather stitching here, and then down here you can see it's also covered in leather. And over here, my test car also has the 14-speaker Bose audio system, which sounds good, but if you guys want an even more impressive audio, spend $6 grand to go for the Burmester sound system. The window controls have that typical Audi Volkswagen high-quality click feel to it, and you also have 3-person memory on basically every seat. There's 3-person memory on the driver, the passenger, and the 2 rear seats. You can see the power adjustments are here. These are the 14-way. You can also spec in an 18-way seat, which has a more aggressive bolstering. These are the more comfort-oriented seats, which I think fits the mission of the Panamera in general. Now, of course, being a sedan, it has a really nice low step-in height, which makes you feel like you're getting into like a 4-door 911. As I shut the door actually has a soft close feature, as it should, considering the 6-figure price tag. And then if I wanted to slam the door has a really nice solid sounding thunk, which adds to that impression of quality. Now, as I get into this vehicle, you're going to notice quite a few things. First of all, if you're familiar with the latest crop of Porsche products, this interior is going to feel very familiar. And if you want to start the car up, the start-stop button, which is actually new this year, is located here on this side. It used to be a little twisty fake passenger or fake key thing here, but now the company has actually given us a button, so that's again part of the new feature. Porsche was hesitant to do push button start for a long time, but now of course it's nice that they are including that little feature. Now of course, looking at the rest of the dashboard design, you can see it's a Porsche. It has really high build quality and nice materials. You can see the beautiful leather from here carries over into the upper portion of the dash. It has no actual bin or hood over the instrument panel, but you can see the instrument panel behind me is a 12.6-inch fully digital cluster, which is an upgrade for the prior generation, which had 2 7-inch displays and an analog tachometer. You can also, if you want, adjust the way this gauge display looks to make it customizable. You can actually essentially move and adjust that. You can also completely change the layout of the gauge cluster. You can see you can go into basically the traditional view here with the tach front and center with the 4 other dials surrounding it. You can go to a 3-dial mode, which is what I had it in before, and you can kind of go into a simplified driver assistance view, a GPS function, a bigger GPS display, and then you can go into your night vision display. I would probably skip that option, to be honest. It's an extra $3 grand. And then there's your simplified display. My personal favorite, let me know what you guys find your favorite, is this display here with the 3 individual dials that shows you your trip computer and then your actual speedometer. The steering wheel is also new. It's got a really nice leather material covering it with contrast stitching. It offers a power, tilt, and telescoping adjustment as well, where you can find a good amount of adjustability and range. Metal paddles behind the wheel itself. Your cruise control stock is here. My test car has the Porsche Innovation Drive with the lane keep function. It's essentially their version of a hands-off driving for certain conditions on the highway. I also love the controls here for your adjusting of the display. Your volume control is here. The horn, it sounds pretty much as I expected it to be. It's appropriately sized for the actual, girth of the vehicle, so it doesn't sound puny. I also love the drive mode selector here. This is part of the Sport Chrono package. If I start rotating that, it goes from a normal to a Sport and then a Sport Plus, and then if I push that, it puts you into the Sport Response Overboost feature, which essentially gives you 20 seconds of maximum power, which is great if you're trying to pass that slow-moving vehicle. Now, of course, here in the center, you can see you have a 10.9-inch display, which includes wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. The screen itself is quick, snappy, and responsive. Go back to the Porsche native system. You can see it also looks much better with their new improved graphics. The color graphics go into the vehicle. You can go and adjust your different settings and whatnot. You can see I love the graphic of the actual car there. You can go into a couple of things here with your trip computer. You can go into an actual settings display here where you can adjust all different kinds of things, including your ambient lighting. The ambient lighting in this car also is customizable with several different colors, and I have to say it looks pretty good at night. It adds to, again, that whole impression that you're driving a fancier luxury car, which I very much appreciate. If I put the vehicle into reverse, you can see there's your full surround view camera system. That's optional. Again, Porsche never gives it to you as standard, so you can see the graphics and resolution is good. You have parking sensors front and the rear with cross-traffic braking, all that stuff that you pretty much expect when it comes to technology, which, by the way, here's the new transmission selector. Porsche used to do a shifter here in the center. Now they've basically freed it up and they've given it to you with a little button there with a little kind of toggle that's been taken from the 911 located there, which I like the feel of it. I also like the aluminum trim here, the leather stitching here. What I don't love, however, is all the piano black plastic over here. So you can see your This little touch panel here controls your climate function. You can go to a climate menu here, which, by the way, that's how you adjust the air vents. You can see the vents look like you would manually adjust them like that, but you actually have to adjust them right here via on the screen. So don't love that. I would prefer if Porsche just did a manual system, but again, they wanted to make the interior feel a little bit more modern. You can also do several different settings for their airflow ventilation. You can go into the air quality. That's an extra $500 if you guys want an air filtration system. There's your 4-zone climate control for the rear climate. Each seat has its own climate function, which is again what you expect when you're driving around in a luxury sedan like this. However, what I don't like is all the piano black, which will show scratches and fingerprints and smudges really easily. If you open this up, you can see there's your wireless phone charging pad with 2 USB-C charging ports. Your volume knob is here. Your heated and cooled seat control is here. This also fits my iPhone 14 Pro Max nicely. What I don't love, however, is this little door. It just has like a slightly cheaper plasticky feel to it. Not something that I would like to see in a $100,000 plus vehicle, but that's a small little gripe. Cup holders, they're pretty decent size. More leather over here. There's a nice padded, or actually it could be softer, but it's leather stitch for the center console. Open that up, you can see it's a little small, but it does offer a 12 volt, a little bit of cover storage as well. Like I mentioned earlier, the seats are extremely comfortable and supportive. The leather also feels very plush. These are an extra $4,300 for the upgraded leather interior. My test car is missing the massage function, which I would love to see. And then over here, you can see for an extra $1,500, there's a passenger display. Now I have to move all the way here because from this angle, the driver cannot see that display, but from here, once you're sitting directly in front of it, you can see it essentially mimics the infotainment software from this side where you can control the GPS. You can put up movies in here through video, of course, where you can, it looks like you can actually load up YouTube if you'd like. It's taking a second for it to load. It's actually not YouTube, but it's a streaming service provider, Screen Hits TV. Never heard of that. You can also turn the display off, go back to the home display here. So this is kind of nice. 10.9 inches here, 10.9 inches here, 12.6 inches there. So it's basically a wall of screens, which looks very modern, but it's also pretty easy to use. The glove box, you can see if I pull this latch, the entire piece here actually moves. It's damped, it's lined with felt. It's a pretty good size. Love the aluminum trim here and that little detail. Not a single squeak or rattle in this car, which again adds to that impression of quality. You have a heads-up display here, auto-dimming rearview mirror, LED map lighting above me, and then you can see the sunroof also is nice where I can open it up to vent air. That's part of an extra charge as well if you guys want that panoramic sunroof, which also includes the rear roof area. That's the maximum that it opens, but I like the fact that it does open to actually vent air. There's a woven material on the headliner here, but overall the interior certainly has a really upscale vibe to it. Really great technology, but if you guys don't like piano black, this is where I think that Porsche used a little bit too much. It also doesn't quite have the same warmth feeling that you get from like an S-Class or the new BMW 7 Series, but it does very much have a driver feel to it, and it also has a modern touch to it. But let's go ahead and hop into the backseat area of this car and show you guys what the space is like. Now, opening up the door, you can see my test car for $3,000 has the executive rear seat package, which essentially means you have 8-way power adjustments for the 2 rear seats. There's no middle seat, but for $1,000, you can spec in a middle seat to make this a 5-passenger vehicle. But if you want the executive rear seat package, you have to stick with the 2 person seats back here. You can see the rear area has really the nice same materials with the leather, piano black, aluminum, all the way leather going down through here, and it also has memory seat functions. And you can see here it has those power retractable shades, which are an extra $3,000, which includes shades for here and for the back window, which I'll show you in just a moment. Now let me get back here and show you guys what this space is like. Now, when I shut the door, it also has a soft close feature, and again, I really love the power shade, which just adds to that privacy levels when you're back here. Now, in terms of the legroom space, Porsche doesn't actually say how much legroom is back here. I'd estimate that it has maybe 38 inches of legroom. This is essentially where I'd have the seat to drive. So it's a pretty good amount of space. I can get my feet underneath here. I can also cross my legs, but it's not as roomy as like the new 7 Series or S-Class, but it's certainly still nice. I also love the rear vents over here. There's hard touch materials over here, but I love the leather stitching along the seat back of the front seats as well. You have your own set of climate controls and a screen over here that essentially allows you to control the actual seat comfort. So you can adjust your heated and ventilated seats back here, although my test car is missing. Actually, no, it does have ventilated seats back here, which is nice. I can also open and close this shade. So if I push this little button right here, you can see there's a little shade that pops up to give you even more privacy, and I can also close this shade over here. Now, this doesn't actually open up to vent air, but I love the fact that you have that individual control over here. You can also adjust the ambient lighting in this vehicle. from back here. So if I go back here, you can adjust the way the ambient lighting looks. There's several different colors. You can turn it on and off. You can see there's a cold white, warm white, orange, poppy red, topaz blue, Atlantis, and then a dynamic. I actually really like the lemon green color. But again, this is all what you'd expect in a fancy luxury car. There's 2 USB charging ports here. Open that up, you can see there's cup holders, although it seems a little bit small, but I kind of like how it actually will pop up if you need to put like a taller drink in there. If I fold this down, you can see there's an armrest that folds down, gives me a little bit of storage as well, which is nice. There's also a really soft pillow here, which I wasn't expecting to find. The seats also have a comfortable, luxurious feel to them in terms of the headroom space. There's also a fairly good amount of headroom back here, so again, this is not what I expected. If you guys, were thinking this car has a small back seat like the Taycan, this is certainly not the case. And that's probably the reason why the Panamera exists, because this definitely gives you the upscale feel that you're looking for. It's just not quite as spacious, of course, as the latest versions of the S-Class and the 7 Series. So it's kind of crazy to think in all the years that I've been doing these reviews, I actually haven't had a chance to even drive or review for you guys a Porsche Panamera. If you guys remember the Panamera, this is essentially, the first Porsche four-door sedan that the company actually brought to production. Technically, I guess if you want to go even further, the Cayenne was the first four-door, but that was an SUV. This is actually a sedan slash liftback. So now that we're finally driving the redesigned Porsche Panamera, this model happens to be the base version, although it's one notch above the base because we're driving the Panamera 4, and it gets a new engine for this generation. It's a 2.9 liter twin turbocharged V6. It replaces the old 3 liter single turbo V6. Now we make 348 horsepower, 369 pound-feet of torque. Those power figures seem a little low on paper, especially when you can buy 500 plus horsepower electric vehicles nowadays. But still, Porsche claims this model should get to 60 in 4.5 seconds with the Sport Chrono package and launch control, which we have. So let's go ahead and see what we can get here 0 to 60 wise. So I have it in Sport Plus. Porsche's launch control is easy. You just Sport Plus mode, brake, torque it. Oof. Porsche's always launch really hard. Wow, 4.24 seconds. I knew it was going to be probably faster than what Porsche claims. The Germans always tend to be conservative, and it's because of how effective their launch control is. I mean, you guys saw it literally revs the engine out to 5,000 RPM, dumps the clutch, and then it just takes off. There's little to no lag. You're not waiting for any kind of turbos to spool up. It just feels like it rockets you off the line. And for a base engine, that performance is pretty impressive, to be honest. And remember, Porsche will happily sell you, if you want to spend over double the money, a version that has over 770 horsepower, if you guys want that. But this should honestly be plenty of power for most people. So it impresses me as always how, quick even the base level Porsches are. Let's try just flooring it here from a stop. Or actually, let's try just flooring it from a stop and see what we can get here 0 to 60 wise. So I'll just put it in sport response here. Really quick and firm shifts from that 8-speed PDK. 5.07 seconds there. Now that's with it more going slightly uphill as well, so it shaves at least a half a second off the time when you guys use the launch control function. So kind of keep that in mind. But in the real world, if you don't have time to launch it, you're going to be doing at least high fours, a sub 5 second 0 to 60 time, which is honestly fast enough for most people. And again, if you want more power, Porsche also offers the e-hybrid version of this powertrain. They also offer a 4S, a GTS, and the turbo e-hybrid and the turbo S e-hybrid. But this vehicle continues to be built, of course, on a upgraded version of the MSB architecture. I've actually had a chance to sample this this platform when I had a chance to drive the Bentley Continental GT and the Bentley Flying Spur. They are essentially built off of the Panamera's MSB architecture, and it's a wonderful place to spend time. In fact, for my first time driving the Panamera, I was expecting this car to feel more like a four-door 911, and I'm sure the upper versions, like a GTS or a Turbo E hybrid, will probably feel more like a four-door sports car. This, to me, feels more like a luxury sedan, which is not a bad thing. It has a really comfortable and smooth ride quality. Porsche basically redesigned the suspension this year. All Panameras get an adaptive 2-chamber air suspension with adaptive dampers. If you guys go for the hybrid versions, you'll also add their hydraulic system, where Porsche calls it Porsche Active Ride Control, where it can independently control each wheel, and it'll raise and lower the vehicle 2 inches instantly when you open the door. It'll also lean the vehicle in the other direction when you are cornering, to kind of make the vehicle feel like it corners even more flatly. but oof. The one thing I am noticing about this transmission and this engine is when you don't have it in launch control, or when you're just driving it around town, there is a noticeable amount of lag initially. I'm not entirely sure that lag is acceptable to me. I mean, it's a DSG, it's a dual clutch, so you're gonna expect a little bit of lag, but I've driven some 911s that didn't have this much lag with their PDK, so I'm not entirely sure if it has to do perhaps with this twin turbo V6. It does come from Audi. It's essentially a detuned version of the one that's in the RS5, of course. But let's try another 0 to 60 time where we'll launch control it again. So effective, and it's so fast when you finally do it. Fantastic. All right, 4.19 seconds there, so we'll take that as our best time. It's 4.2 seconds, and again, Porsche claims 4.5, so it's a 0.3 second improvement in the actual real-world testing. So the quickest one is the Turbo SE Hybrid, which Porsche says will do it in 2.8. I'd probably say that'll actually do it in 2.5 if I eventually get my hands on one to test. But just driving the Panamera normally around town, the PDK definitely, you know, makes itself known as a sport-oriented transmission. I'll switch the drive mode here into just its normal setting. And this is where everything kind of gets a little bit smoother. The suspension gets a little bit softer. The transmission eases back and it tries to shift a little bit smoother and tries to get into its top gear. But the steering in this car is still wonderful. Porsche does some of the best electro-hydraulic steerings where it's quick, it's snappy, it's responsive. It really, you know, shows you that this is a big sedan, but it also hides its weight extremely well. This is still a 4,300 pound vehicle, but it corners very nicely. It feels very much like the Porsche of four-door sedans. I mean, yes, you could compare this car to like an S-Class, and this definitely feels a lot sportier than like an S-Class or a 7 Series. Not quite as big or as spacious as those two models, but still you have a ton of space. This vehicle is very wide. You get a sense that you're commanding, you're taking up a good portion of the road. But I can tell instantly that I'm driving a Porsche. It looks like I'm in a 911 from the way the hood looks from the driver's standpoint. The visibility of the front, the side is really good. This pillar is also a little bit thick, but I can still see, thanks to this big window here. The view out of the back is actually pretty decent, but Porsche sadly does not offer a digital camera rearview mirror. The Germans, for some reason, tend to not offer that feature, which kind of annoys me. And I also really love these seats. These are the 14-way power adjustable comfort seats. You can get it with a massage feature, but my test car is missing that. Thankfully, this model does have heated and ventilated seats. The cooled seat function works pretty decently. The rear is also heated and ventilated with power 8-way adjustments as well. You can also go to an 18-way sport seat if you guys would like, where it has a little bit more aggressive bolsters to it, but this is still honestly very comfort-oriented. It's very luxurious in here. It's very, you know, just tight. The build quality is great. There's not a single squeak and rattle. The one thing I did notice, however, is there's more road noise than I expected this car to have. It's probably because it has these summer Michelins on it, and they're also really fat 325s in the rear, but I think Porsche could have done more to put better sound deadening, but at the same time, they could have did that on purpose to make this thing feel more visceral. It's supposed to be a Porsche. It's supposed to be sportier and harder edge, and it certainly delivers that, but I really need to get my hands on a GTS or a Turbo SE Hybrid to feel more of that four-door 911 in terms of the handling and in terms of the acceleration, of course. In terms of fuel efficiency, going with this base engine does save you a little bit at the pump. Now, again, I haven't had a chance to drive any of the other hybrid models, but this model is rated at 18 in the city, 25 on the highway. In my week's worth of testing, I was averaging around 16.5 mpg in pure city driving. On the highway, however, this thing is damn efficient. It was getting around 30 miles to the gallon at a 75 mile per hour cruise in normal mode. If I slowed down to 65, the fuel economy improved to 32 mpg. So excellent gas mileage there. Combine that with the massive 24-gallon fuel tank, and you're looking at almost 500 miles of range between fill-ups. That's what it showed when they dropped this car with a full tank. In my actual testing, I got around 450 in real-world driving on premium gas, of course, but that's still excellent range, really good fuel economy on the highway. On the city, it's not good. This is where if Porsche did a mild hybrid feature, it would probably do a little bit better, or make it a hybrid. You have to go again for the plug-in hybrid to get efficiency, or to get, you know, more power as well. But I have a feeling the plug-in hybrid model probably won't do that much better in terms of efficiency. I'm hoping I'll get one soon to test in the real world. But overall, for my first time driving the Panamera, obviously I can see why Bentley borrowed this platform for their Continental GT and the Flying Spur. Does it feel like, you know, a four-door sports car? This particular one has hints of it, but it feels to me more like Porsche was targeting, you know, luxury, making this more of a luxury sedan, which is a good thing. I think it's great, but I'll have to wait until I get my hands on like a GTS or a Turbo S trim level to see if it really truly lives up to the four-door sports car claim. Until then, I'll have to say that the Panamera is a really nice option in this segment, especially if you don't necessarily need all the additional interior space. It is a little bit smaller in here, but it does have a bigger trunk than its competitors. But overall, I'm impressed. I really like the way this car feels in day-to-day driving, especially if you need a luxury sedan. So even though luxury sedans are no longer the preferred vehicle of choice for wealthy individuals looking for a more practical luxury car, it's always wonderful to me whenever I get a chance to actually drive a brand new four-door sedan. So after finally getting some time with the Porsche Panamera, the all-new third generation, I have to say, for those of you who are looking for the Porsche of luxury sedans, this is essentially it. I mean, obviously, the one that I'm driving here is the base engine, so it's not going to quite give you the same fire that you're going to feel whenever you put your foot down if you guys are used to driving like a turbo 911, but that's why there's, you know, more powerful versions available of the Panamera. As you guys saw, the base 2.9 liter twin turbo V6 delivers really good acceleration. With launch control, 0 to 60 happened in 4.2 seconds, which is plenty fast for about 80% of people. It's really just enthusiasts who are going to want to check out the S, the 4S, the GTS, the Turbo S, and the E-Hybrid variants, of course. The interior of the new Panamera essentially takes everything that we like out of the Taycan and the Cayenne, but of course gives it to you in a really well thought out package. I love the comfortable 14-way seats. I love the software interface with the new, 3 displays in the front of the vehicle, along with that new screen in the rear. The back seat as well is surprisingly comfortable. So I highly recommend speccing up that rear executive seat package for the extra $3,000 that my test car also has. So keep in mind, if you guys are looking for, a luxury sedan, this is where the Panamera surprised me, because this does feel more like a luxury sedan than I expected it to. So I'm hoping I'll be able to drive the more quicker variants at some point at a later time to see if there are some hints of fire that make this thing feel more like a four-door sports car. But again, for those of you who are just looking for a luxury sedan, my only real gripe with the Panamera happens to be with the noise levels. It had a surprising amount of road noise, especially at highway speeds. But if you can overlook that, it certainly gives you a more visceral feel. And this thing certainly does live up to the Porsche name in terms of build quality, the exterior design, handling dynamics, and of course in terms of pricing. Because if you want to get your hands on the new Panamera, this is going to cost you a pretty penny, although it's not that much more expensive than something like an S-Class or a 7 Series. Base pricing for the Panamera rear-wheel drive model starts at just over $100,000, around $101,800, including the destination charge. Add $7,000 if you guys want all-wheel drive. Now, of course, being a Porsche, there's a ton of options to choose from, whether you go for packages or you go for a la carte options. My test car here has about $30,000 worth of options that balloon the price tag to just over $142,000. I know $142,000 sounds like a lot of money, but again, it's about roughly the same price as the latest versions of the Mercedes-Benz S-Class and 7 Series. So keep that in mind. If you guys want the 4S E-Hybrid or the 4 E-Hybrid, it'll cost you around $6,000 more. The 4S E-Hybrid can cost you around another $10,000 more. The most expensive version of this car can go up to well over $250,000 for the Turbo S E-Hybrid. That's of course for another review. But again, if you guys are looking for a luxury sedan with a little bit more hints of sportiness, then you should definitely put the latest Porsche Panamera at the top of your list. But with all that said, hope you guys have enjoyed my full overview on the brand new 2025 Porsche Panamera 4. If you're also looking to see the latest cars I'm testing, be sure to follow me on Instagram at Redline_reviews, like us on Facebook, and as always guys, please keep subscribing to the Redline Reviews YouTube channel for all the latest reviews. Thank you so much for watching. I'll catch you all in the next video.